The I'm Fine podcast is produced by L'Amour Media, LLC, and is run by Project Headspace and Timing. Project Headspace and Timing is a 501c3 that I started in 2017 after a veteran that I was a medic to decided to pull over on the side of the road and end his life. As an organization, Project Headspace and Timing works on veteran advocacy and veteran outreach. What that means is through the advocacy perspective, we try to connect veterans to other resources as early on into the process as possible. What that entails is early contact with veterans, forming a safety net with their family members, friends, and fellow service members, educating them on the resources, and when that veteran is ready to get help, we are there to make sure that they get the help that they need. The outreach aspect is put there to get veterans together to do productive and constructive things, whether it's out in nature, working with other businesses, anything to get them out around other veterans where those good conversations can happen if they want to have them. If you are interested in finding out more information about our organization, please visit projectheadspaceandtiming.org, our Facebook page, Project Headspace and Timing, or our Instagram, which is Project Headspace and Timing. And if you would like to donate to our organization, please visit our website, projectheadspaceandtiming.org, scroll to the bottom, and you will find a link to our Venmo. If you'd like to send us a check, our P.O. Box is P.O. Box 382, Manteno, Illinois, 60950. And if you'd like to sponsor or have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me at Eric P. as in Paul, at projectheadspaceandtiming.org. Thank you. On today's episode of the I'm Fine podcast, Brad and I are going to talk about the relationship between racism and mental health. We're going to share some of our personal experiences for a little bit, and then we're going to have our friend and president of the Kankakee branch of the NAACP, Theodis Pace, come on here to talk about what his opinions and experiences are. And we're going to also get into the KCCCRT, which is the Community Response Team in Kankakee County, and how that was put together to also deal with the mental health of groups of people in our community.
Welcome to the I'm Fine podcast with your freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional hosts, Eric Peterson and Brad Stozick.
Solid. How are you feeling today, buddy?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah?
Good. Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah. Going on a vacation. Mini vacation.
Oh, yeah. Where are you going?
Wisconsin. Just going to hit up a water park. And we were supposed to go see ice castles, but the weather's been so
Not
mild
icy. Yeah.
that they kind of just...
They're going to be super depressing ice castles.
Yeah.
There's going to be little puddles of like mush.
Yeah.
That's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
That's not too bad.
It happens.
But other than that,
Yeah.
when we were on our drive over here, you brought something up that I kind of wanted to briefly talk about. You said that, lately, you made this huge change in your life. You've been doing really well. You've been implementing all these positive things, meditating, working out, stuff like that. And then you kind of felt like you hit a plateau. And you just told me that also, in addition to that, you're having these moments where you're like, I miss my dad.
Yeah.
And you asked me if I had those things. And I was just like, oh my God, yeah, 100%, dude.
Yeah.
How have you been doing with that?
I don't know. Like, the person I've been working with and training with, he said the highs are really high and the lows are going to be really low.
Right.
And he is not even a little bit wrong.
But it's really important to understand that when you're making these changes in your life towards having a better state of mental health, initially, like with anything else, I feel like, and again, this is coming from unprofessional, right? But you have that honeymoon phase where it's new. And dude, you lost, how much weight did you lose?
Last time I checked, I was down like 23 pounds.
Bro, you lost 23 pounds, which is amazing. You made all these positive changes. And then, so like it's all new, it's all bright, it's all shiny, it's all cool. And you were so happy about it. But at some point, the honeymoon phase kind of dies down, not because the accomplishments are diminished, but because you're more accustomed, you're more used to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And obviously, when it comes to losing weight, you make those big changes early on. You can knock some pounds pounds off. And then it gets a little harder as time goes on. That doesn't mean that what you've done isn't incredible.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
And when I told you, now it's been 4 months. Yeah, 4 months since I've lost my mom. Dude, I have an emotional moment about my mother still multiple times a week.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's daily anymore. And when I say that, I just mean, like I said in the car, I was like, dude, I'll have these moments where I think about my mom, and all of a sudden I just feel this emotion, like just kind of just my eyes like welling up. And again, I'll just say to myself, hey, if I want to cry, I'm going to fucking cry.
Yep.
I'm going to have this. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to think about it, and then I'm going to process it, and then I'm going to go on with my day.
Yep.
And I don't think that ever goes away. And that was one thing that everybody has told me about losing a parent is like, it doesn't get easier.
No.
You learn how to deal with it.
It's crazy how fast time flies too.
Yeah.
It's like, what, February?
Yeah, dude.
3 months away, and it's been a year since my dad. Like a year.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yep.
It's I don't even know.
But again, you know that you've been doing incredible.
Yeah.
You've been doing such a fucking good job, man. And
Thank you.
I'm still as proud of you now as I was then. So just
Thank you.
Keep it up, man.
Thanks.
Now, it's cool because I get to talk a little bit about my mom today. Just not in a super positive way, but that's fine. Because we are going to talk about the relationship between racism and mental health. So if anybody has, watched the news once in the past few years, you've probably seen that there is for sure some sort of civil unrest, anxiety, frustration, anger, whatever, that is like tied to events that were racist in nature. Some were racist in nature. Some look like they were, but maybe they weren't. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I brought this up very early on in the podcast. I had a breakthrough with my therapist, and this was like a while ago, obviously. And that breakthrough was I've always had a issue with attention, and like when people are paying attention to me, which is super weird. Because I do all this nonprofit shit, and I'm always out in public doing stuff, but like it was to the point where I was like kind of self-medicating before I would be out in public because I didn't know how to deal with it, and I had a lot of social anxiety. And what I'd realized with my therapist was that when I was from a very young age, I was always targeted by bullies, and now everybody has bullies, and kids now have it way worse than I think I ever did. But I was targeted by bullies, and it was always the same thing. It was always because I looked different than everybody else. Right. It was always because I was Asian. And so I would always get made fun of for that thing, for being Asian. And so at some point in my life, I just associated attention with that negative feeling in my stomach. We're like, oh God, these people are thinking about me. What are they thinking? They're making jokes about me in their head or whatever. And it would just make me feel terrible. And that was kind of what had an effect on my social anxiety. And then from a perspective of my parents, like my dad is Caucasian, my mom is Asian. And like my mom grew up cleaning her clothes in a river and like rubbing her knuckles against the clothes and rocks to get stains out where her knuckles would bleed. Like she was just certified badass. And then she came here and she learned English when she was young. She worked very hard to learn English. When she came to the United States, the first moment I ever noticed and realized, I guess, what racism was, is when I think it was like 10 years old. And that's when I realized that there was really a difference. Because when I was really little, everybody got bullied. So while I was getting bullied and people were like, making the Asian jokes or whatever, like it sucked, but I also saw everybody getting bullied. So that kind of took some of the sting out of it, I guess. Yeah. But I was at an airport. I remember this like it was yesterday. Granted, we've talked about it before as far as like nostalgia is concerned. Maybe I just made all of this shit up in my head, but I don't think I did. I'm pretty sure it happened. I was in the airport with my mom. And we were going to the Philippines because she took me to the Philippines when I was little. It was the only trip we ever took over there together. And it was a very impactful trip on me. But as we were heading there in the airport, my mom needed help with like directions to somewhere. Now, my mom had a very heavy accent. Yeah. And but she spoke English, but she had an accent. So she asked somebody at the airport, like, where we were going to go and some other questions, and the person got very mad at her. Got very frustrated. Maybe she was very busy, and I don't know what kind of day she had either, but she just told her that she needed to learn how to speak better English or get out of this country. And like, dude, as a kid, seeing that happen to your mom,
Yeah.
like, I saw red for the first time in my life. Like, I was fucking furious. I was so mad that somebody could treat my mother like that. And that was the moment where it was kind of implanted in my head that some people aren't going to be mean to you just because of the way that you look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's one thing that I was because when I was young, I lived in a very diverse area in Kankakee. My area is still pretty diverse, but like growing up in Kankakee was great because of so many different cultures. It was a great transition into the military.
Yeah.
Because like what we talked about being in the military is, dude, you are with everybody.
Yep.
You are with every different race, and none of it matters. And I think that's because we're wearing the same uniform.
Yeah.
I mean that superficially and also on a deeper level. Like, it's just, we're all wearing the same uniform. We're wearing the same hat. We all have the same haircut. You know what I mean? We're just like, okay, we're all on the same team here. You know what I mean? And then it's about worth from that point on. Mm-hmm. You have to prove yourself. You have to do your job. And if you do those things, doesn't matter what color you are, man. Like, we all kind of get along here, and everybody would mess with each other equally.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody could take it and dish it right back. When I was in Afghanistan, dude, my first tour, my squad was like the United Nations. It was me, a black dude, a Puerto Rican dude, another Filipino guy, a couple of white guys. And our jokes that we would use to rag on each other, it was amazing. Oh, yeah. And we didn't care because none of them were hurtful. And I think none of them were hurtful because we all also knew that we were willing to die for each other.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
What was your experience like as a white man?
As a white man, like in the military or just
in general?
So I had a job in the military that was primarily, Hispanic and African American, and it was great. Like you said, we would joke around, but I never really experienced different races. Like I grew up in Mantino. Yeah. White as white can be. You know what I'm saying? And I never really experienced other races or really anything like that until I joined the military, which was eye-opening, great. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it was some of my best friends, dude. Like, it didn't matter. Didn't matter.
Well, I also, now I'm dating myself, but excuse me. I know I'm dating myself here, but I refer to my life as a reverse version of the Julia Stiles classic Save the Last Dance. In that, because in Save the Last Dance, you have a white girl who moves from an affluent place to a culturally diverse place. Yep. And then, like, it's one of those, like, we can save the people by dance type of movies or whatever. And I was kind of the opposite in that I was like a chubby Asian kid in a super culturally diverse area. And then I moved to Herscher, which was pretty, not affluent, but it was pretty... It was dominant, like white was dominant out there. Oh, yeah. And there were a few people of color. There was 2 other Asian guys, and they were brothers. And then, like I've said before on this podcast, everybody thought that, not everybody, but some of the people thought that I was their other brother. Right. So I was the other Asian kid out there. So it was kind of like a reverse Save the Last Dance. And I can't dance. So,
man.
But I was so thankful that I got to be brought up in that type of environment, just because I didn't know anything was really, really a problem until adults kind of made me understand that it was. So now, when as a white man, do you feel like it's super hard to even approach these topics? Like today, we're gonna have Theodis Pace on, and you'd ask me before this podcast, you're like, dude, I don't want to say something and it sounds like it's coming from a bad place. And I was like, as long as you're open about that, and you're like, I don't know how else to ask this question, but I want to know something. Yeah. how do you feel when it comes to dealing with the topic of race? How do you feel about it? Do you get anxious, apprehensive?
Sometimes, because I feel like I said, I don't think I can comment on it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like I guess have the authority, if you will. You know what I mean?
But you're definitely allowed to have your opinions, right? I
Right.
think it comes from a place of you want to make sure that you're not hurting someone else's feelings.
Absolutely.
You're not you don't want to come off as like you are racist or something. You're just but you have questions that you want to ask, right?
Right. Yeah. Like, I'm genuinely I have genuine questions.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea what it's like to go out in public and be constantly watched or something, or to experience, like you said, to be called, made fun of because I look different, or I've never experienced that. The far extent I have that is like, I was a little chubby when I was younger.
Yeah.
I'm still chubby to this day, but I mean, you know what I mean?
23 pounds less chubbier.
Yeah. But I've never really had that experience. So for me, when it comes to things like that, it's better to have some experience in it, to have a little bit of, instead of going in totally blind.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I feel like at least every episode you got to make one pun.
I should sprinkle in a blind joke.
I love it. I think they're the best. And it was one thing that I always kind of hid from for a long time, was like really embracing the Asian side, because where I was brought up, because I was always made fun of for it. I kind of shied away from it. Like my mom tried to teach me Tagalog, which is the main dialect of Filipino that she spoke, and I didn't want to learn it. I didn't want to do any of the Asian type things. Like, I always try to distance myself from it, and I kind of understand why now, because I also associated it with those negative feelings, right? Which sucks, because I really wish, especially when my mom was around, that I could have been more involved in that. Mm-hmm. And going to the Philippines and doing things like that, like, impacted me for life for sure. But yeah, I mean, and so we looked up some articles too about the relationship between mental health and racism, and you found a couple, did you not?
I did find I found a couple.
What did you find?
What did I find? I'm going to bring those up real quick. Sorry.
No.
Oh, I don't have internet. So I found that the different types of racism, right?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even realize there was that many different. I don't have the article. I'm so sorry.
No, don't be, dude.
But the one that really stood out to me, and it was called, and they put it in quotations, it was called reverse racism. Yeah. Where basically white people are like, oh, well, I'm not racist. Like, you guys are being racist but in order to, throughout history, of America, white people mainly held power. Yeah. And in order to experience racism, you have to be in a position where you don't hold power. Right. So I feel like white people are just like, oh, yeah, you guys are being racist, to make themselves feel better. And the thing for me, we're all, like I was telling you earlier this morning, it's a melting pot nation, dude. You're supposed to embrace your culture, embrace where you're from. Even white people, this isn't we didn't come, you know what I'm saying? We weren't born here.
White people.
It's, I don't know.
No, I agree with what you're saying. And I also think it's really frustrating from the position of somebody that is white to have to deal with this kind of stuff if you are very welcoming and you are very supportive of everything, and you are also getting pulled into the conversation of the things that white people in the past have done, because now that brings this guilt aspect to your life that you had nothing to do with it, but it's a general statement about white people, so you're like, oh man, okay, so now they're talking about, so yeah, I can see how that starts to harbor those feelings of a white person wanting to talk about reverse racism, because they're being made to feel bad about something that they're trying to actively fight against. Yeah. And so it's really difficult. I think it's insanely complicated. But one article that I found that was just kind of funny for me. So it's called Racism. It's a research paper. And this is titled Racism as a Determinant of Health, a Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis. This was done in 2015. Just reading from the abstract, what made me kind of laugh about this. So in this study that was done, Data from 293 studies reported in 333 articles published between 1983 and 2013 and conducted predominantly in the United States were analyzed using random effect models and mean weighted effect sizes. Racism was associated with poorer mental health, including depression, anxiety, psychological stress, and various other outcomes. Racism was also associated with poorer general health and poorer physical health. Moderation effects were found for some outcomes with regard to study and exposure characteristics. So, yeah, man, I mean, didn't feel like that was going to be a huge surprise to anybody. The people that are super racist aren't doing great.
Nope.
Up here, not doing great. Down here, just in general, not doing great. Like, yeah, no shit. I feel like as a collective, it's just like, oh, no way. I didn't know that. Like, I've never met a super racist person be like, man, he seems pretty cool. Like, I want to go grab a beer with that guy. It's
right.
like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? So, yeah, totally understood that. That didn't sound too crazy to me. But, yeah, so the other part, too, of race and like mental health and just being completely oblivious to things. So like I've only been in interracial relationships my entire life. It's something I've never thought about before.
Yeah.
And somebody asked my wife, I can't remember if we'd just been married, but it was like we've been together for a while. So it was like years into a relationship. And someone asked my wife what it was like being in an interracial relationship because my wife is white.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad are different races, so they're in an interracial relationship. And my wife was just like, I don't know, because I never really thought about it before. Like, we fell in love and we were together and the race stuff didn't really matter. And I was like in my late 20s, early 30s, and when I realized, oh my God, I've only been in interracial relationships my entire life. And it never really bothered me. It never bothered me. And the only thing that bothers me now is I feel like in every single commercial that I see, it's every single couple is an interracial couple, which is great and beautiful, right. But also coming from somebody in an interracial relationship, I'm like, we got it. We can love each other. We understand. Like every single couple is interracial, which is fine. But no, so today, I wanted to have Theodis Pace on, and I'm pretty excited to hear some of the things that he has to say.
Absolutely.
He's got a lot of information. He's got a lot of knowledge. He's been around the block quite a few times, and he is the president of the Kankakee branch of the NAACP. So I am actually on a subcommittee of the NAACP called the KCCCRT, which is the Kankakee County Community Crisis Response Team. I was asked to be a part of it through a good friend of mine, Karen Smatansky, who is the assistant superintendent over the Kankakee County Veterans Assistance Commission. And they wanted me to be a part of this group for two different reasons. One, because I'm Asian, and two, because I'm a veteran. And so I was putting this group of people from all different walks of life together to be able to deal with civil unrest should that opportunity arise or should that situation arise. Now, the groups of people are from all over and they work with local law enforcement and everything, which is great. I want Theodis to talk a little bit about it, so I'm not going to talk too much more about it. But one thing I will say is, so we work with the KCCCRT, we work with the police departments, right?
Yep.
And so they have these like routine classes that you can take. And if you're out there listening, I strongly suggest you listen or you try to sign up for one. But it's like a one-day course. It's a one-day course. And it's taught by the sheriff's department, the county sheriff. And they come out and they go through what it's like to be a police officer. And you go through a lot of different scenarios. You see scenarios where the police were wrong. Right. You see the scenarios where the police weren't wrong. And you see the scenarios where in the media they take a clip of something and they slow it down to like frame by frame by frame. And then they tell you how you should have acted because we're all John Wick and we can make a decision like that. Now, as somebody that has checked people, checked vehicles for bombs, like all that other kind of stuff, I understand a little bit about what it feels like to be in a situation like that and how crazy it can be and how fast everything can be. But working with the NAACP on this initiative, and being able to go to that class was so beneficial just to be able to learn all that kind of stuff. And there was one part of the class, which is my favorite part of the class, which is the simulator. Okay. I think I might have mentioned this before. I know I've talked to you about this before, but so in the simulator training, you go through all of these different scenarios that a police officer would go through, and you get a gun, a plastic one, and I forget what they called it in the military. We had the same thing in the military. We're like with a laser system, and you were in the Connex or whatever, and you get to still like shoot targets and stuff, but it was like laser.
Like the BZO type stuff?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar. Yeah. So it's something similar to that. So you have all these that attended this class. There was a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. There's people that supported the police, people that don't support the police, but everybody was together for the same reason, which was to learn, which was awesome. And so I'm watching these people get up there, and you can see that there's these people who've never handled a gun before, never handled any sort of firearm, and they get up there, and some of the ones that were most vocal at the very beginning of the class, being pro, against, whatever, dude, they either killed a civilian, they missed the person completely, or they got killed. Like, that happened a bunch. So I volunteered to go first. I was like, hell yeah, I want to get up there. I want to see, let's see how I do. And so I got up there, and I did good. The only issue I had with the instructor dinged me on was, so it was a traffic stop. Guy gets out of the car. He's talking to me. He's yelling. His hands are hidden. And so I have my weapon drawn. And the first thing I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to yell things to him. I can't just sit there. I have to interact with this guy to try to see what's going on. So as I start to interact, he pulls out the gun and he puts it on me, and I immediately start firing, right? Infantry background. So I hit him in the chest, and he starts to fall. And as he starts to fall, the handgun comes out of his hand, right? And now what I was told by the instructor is that as an officer, once that threat is eliminated, once the gun is out of their hand, you have to stop firing.
Sure.
But what I did was, as he was I hit him, because then they show you where all your rounds were.
Yeah.
And let me just tell you, let me just brag a little bit. My shot group,
nice,
super tight. My shot group was super tight. I hit him when he was up, and then when the handgun was out of his hand, I shot him 5 more times.
Sure, yeah.
As he was falling down. Infantry dude, we're just going to throw rounds downrange. I'm just throwing him downrange. And I hit him, so he dropped the weapon. I hit him 3 more times, and then he hit the ground, and I hit him 2 more times. And the instructor was like, that was a little excessive. But the thing is, dude, that happened so fast.
Yeah.
From him standing to falling down was maybe 2 seconds. And again, even in that simulator training, man, my adrenaline's running. You know what I mean? I'm just and that's why I just boom, 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 muscle memory took over. Yeah. You know what I mean? But to be able to have opportunities to take classes like that is really cool. It was a free class. So when Theodis comes on and we talk about the KCCCRT, I definitely want you to listen when he talks at the very end about how you guys can get involved. But and then so other than that, man, are you going to ask Theodis some questions? Are you going to feel comfortable?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah.
For me, it's just interesting to hear your perspective on it too, because I know you, and I know how considerate of a person you are, and so it's just you deserve to have your opinions too, but you don't even feel like you can ask those things because you're afraid that you don't want to be ostracized or you want to be mistaken as being a certain way.
It's not so much afraid. Like I said earlier, it's just I don't have that experience. I don't know. The close. And this is not even comparable. I'm not trying to compare it at all. But having a disability, that's as close as not that. You know what I'm saying? People judge, and that's as close. And it's not even.
But I can tell you,
similar.
I think it is a good place to draw parallels from because it's something that affects you all the time.
Yeah.
It's something that affects you when you go out, and it's something that affects you so much to the point that a year ago, it put you in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Where you didn't even feel like you go outside because you would be judged. So yeah, dude, I think there are some parallels there where you have some ground to stand on.
Yeah.
But with that, when we come back, we will have our friend Theodis with us. So we are here now today with Theodis Pace. Theodis is the president of the Kankakee branch of the NAACP. He's a community leader, advocate, coach of football, track, baseball, and as Brad said right before we started recording, the man, the myth, and the legend. Theodis, thank you very much for being on here with us today. Really appreciate it.
Brad, Eric, thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to the questions and the engagement here, that we can interact and let our community know of the work that we're doing in this community to improve the quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, with the NAACP, how long have you been a part of it?
Probably over 45, 50 years. I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. My father is from Tuskegee, Alabama. So my mother's from Montgomery, Alabama. So with those two cities, was part of the civil rights movement,
Right.
Montgomery. My mother grew up not far from Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, where Dr. King preached.
Oh, wow.
My dad is from Tuskegee, so what do we know? So you got the Tuskegee experiment there. And my youngest daughter actually graduated from Tuskegee Institute at the time. So Columbus, Georgia, Tuskegee, Alabama, Montgomery, it was known regarding the civil rights movement. And it was something that you automatically did by just being a member of your respective church. You joined the NAACP as a youth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and what was it like? When did you come to Kankakee?
I arrived here in 1973.
And how long have you been the president of the Kankakee chapter?
I would say since 97.
Okay.
80, somewhere. 97, somewhere around there. I'm about 20 plus years now.
And now we've talked a few times about this, but one of the stories that you shared with me that I thought was a really interesting one from my perspective was about how, as a member of the NAACP in the early years, it kind of had to be done in secrecy, you were saying, right? Could you kind of elaborate on what that was like during those times?
Well, if you go back and see the state of Alabama versus the NAACP, the state of Alabama actually tried to seek, with a lawsuit, to get the membership list of those individuals that lived in Alabama to see who were the members. Quite naturally, that suit was defeated. But back in early segregation, to be a member of the NAACP was something that most people you do not want to know, because the Klans was viable during those period of times. So, if you was the principal of one of the segregated black schools, well then the powers that be might take the position away from you.
Right.
The mailman, if he's delivering the membership card, would know who the members of the NAACP. Unlike parallel of the Klan.
Right.
But myself, when people talk about the civil rights movement, I seen the cornheads. I could be out playing touch football on a Friday evening, and they're going, crossing the Muskogee River, or the Chattahoochee River that separates the state of Georgia and Alabama. And so I can recall anything about segregation. I can recall the separate water fountains, colored, black, the golf course. You could go caddy, but you couldn't play there.
Right.
But when I look back, it was enhancing to me and my peers.
Right.
Because everyone in my environment looked like me. From the custodian at the school to the cooks to the principal to the teachers. So Mr. Higgins, Mr. Jackson, Ms. Nesbitt maybe went to Alabama State, Tuskegee, Savannah. So at you 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, they're already talking to you about how you advance yourself in an educational setting. Now it's almost in reverse, because it's trades. And you don't necessarily need that 4-year degree, but in the early 60s, middle 70s and things like that, we've been promoted. You need that 4-year institute to get that degree, to be the teacher and all that. Now, electrician, plumber, all of those kind of things. So the setting is still there. However, I guess if we want to say, are we what's his name? George Jefferson yet?
Jefferson, yeah.
Have we made it?
Yeah, moving on up.
No, we haven't moved up yet.
Still a lot of way to go.
And we, when you look at it, the previous administration did not help this nation as a whole regarding race relation or building that bridge. And I know later on, you and I are going to talk about our Kankakee County crisis response team.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the other work that we're doing. We're going to talk about, mental health, all of those aspects. So when you really look at the NAACP, even with our meeting last night, I maintain that the Kankakee County branch of the NAACP is the most diverse organization in this county. And what I'm saying is that there's that myth about the NAACP is a Black organization.
Yeah.
As we just stated again, this coming Sunday, February the 12th, this organization will be 114 years old. So if you go back to that setting of February the 12th, 1909, who was in that room? And majority of the people in that room did not look like me. The majority was totally opposite. But most individuals fail to realize what was the outgrowth of the NAACP, the birth. It started in 1908 in where? The land of the great emancipator, the city, Springfield, Illinois.
Was it W.E.B. Du Bois?
No? Abe Lincoln. Springfield, but there was a race ride in Springfield, Illinois in 1909. That was the outgrowth from 1909 to February the 12th, 1908 with the race ride, with the birth of the NAACP, February 1909.
Okay.
All right, the lynching and what happened in Springfield. And so we having a state convention. They're having the race ride monument in Springfield. So, most people don't really understand that, and then it's Black History Month. So how do you educate people? Look at the plight from Black Wall Street, Rosewood. Those was viable Black communities. And all it took was one lie. That's all. And they destroyed both of these institutions and cities, if you want to say that, because of, a white woman declared that some Black man, Emmett Till. I mean, so you can look at the struggle that Blacks have had over the last 100 and some years, and guess what? We still stand.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that you'd mentioned that I wanted to talk about was you brought up how the Kankakee branch of the NAACP is one of the most diverse, if not the most diverse group in Kankakee County. And like you said, we're going to get to it in a little bit. I'm honored to be a part of a subcommittee of the NAACP.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that I noticed when I attended those meetings was exactly what you said. I was like, there is a little bit of everybody here. Like there's every different color, every different everything. And when you talk about how a lot of people thought for the longest time that the NAACP was strictly a Black organization, I was one of those people for a long time. I just assumed that. And then when I actually became a member and I met you and I met Donna, Rhonda, all these other people, it really started to hit me that it was such a diverse group. And then to see the work that you guys do with local law enforcement and everything, what took me back, and which is why I said to you that one day that I wanted to talk to you about being a member, was because it seems like you guys just take the most common sense approach to stuff. For example, the one thing that you said in the first meeting I was in, that was what got me involved, was you said that you gave the example, and this might have been a real world example, but you just mentioned that, if a police department in our area hires X amount of new police officers and they're all white and none of them are Black. And there is a little bit of a civil unrest because people are like, well, why aren't they hiring Black police officers? Well, what you would do is you go to the police department and just say, can I see the list of applicants? How many Black, Hispanic, Asian, how many other people of color applicants were there? And if there weren't any, well, then you're like, okay, well, then that's why there is not a reason to be angry in this situation because of that. And you gave that example. I'm like, that's such a common sense approach to that. And I didn't understand that the NAACP was really kind of bridging the gaps by doing things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and Brad, you had a question. What was your question?
I was just wondering, curious. So this is a mental health podcast. How has racism affected your mental health personally on a personal level?
My mental health?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
I try to be me, meaning that health is wealth.
Yep.
I'm a retiree, and I have the opportunity, unlike most people, to have good insurance. And I believe in self-care. And so mental health is that you put yourself in a position, at least not to be stressed, even though that's something that is hard to do, to deal with it. But as a individual in my family, I've seen mental health. And so here in Kankakee, we have a referendum on it, with regarding mental health, trying to fund it because there's a lack of mental health. And so I use myself as a vehicle to educate, inform other individuals of the resources that prevail to assist those individuals that need assistance regarding mental health. So if to answer your question, it's me to help others.
And I always felt, and I talked about this earlier before you came on, from my perspective as an Asian American, right?
Okay.
I grew up in Kankakee. I went to Thomas Edison, very diverse area.
Oh.
And one of the things
over on Maple Street.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I lived down the street from there. So, I mean, I lived and breathed being in this incredibly rich, diverse cultural environment. And what I saw from my perspective was that I was equally bullied by white kids and black kids. So it was kind of nice because it was like, you guys can agree on one thing, and I was bullying Eric Peterson. But I would get picked on because of my race. And what that caused for me later in life, and I didn't realize it until recently, was that it actually caused anxiety for me because I was always highlighted and given attention, but it was always in a negative way because it was like, oh, you're different, you look different. And so it caused anxiety for me as I grew up. Do you feel like when it comes to your position, you are watching racism happen in all different ways, types, and forms, and it's affecting the mental health of others? What are you seeing, and how are you seeing it affect the mental health of the Black community?
Well, here again, it's a lack of knowledge, lack of resources that the Black community, those individuals who might need that assistance regarding mental health, they're not aware of all the necessary resources, and our federal government, state government has not provided enough funding to meet the needs to provide the necessary resources. Now, but I want to go back to what you just said regarding your anxiety and being attacked by the white kids and the Black kids. Unlike that, I'm thinking about, I'm looking at being on the school bus.
Yeah.
And we just boarded the bus, and we have to go through a white community to get to our school. And back then, I would have to pass Dogwood Elementary, which was a white elementary school. St. Mary's Elementary School was white. So here we are, Black, and I'm talking about Dogwood was somewhat in walking distance, and you're getting called the N-word.
Oh my
you're
God.
Getting, the finger, you're getting everything, and we're just looking.
Right.
Because here's the support that we got. Because once I got to Fifth Avenue or Dawson Drive, Forest Road Elementary, those are the 3 elementary schools I went to. It was that support group that looked like me.
Yeah.
And they're promoting elevating your thoughts of education, and at the same time, you being taught about your history.
Right.
And every day you being reinforced.
Right.
Because the people there understand the plight, and you're not defeated.
And it's during a time where you are so moldable as a child, you know what I mean? Where you get hit with this negativity that's outside of your control. So what are you supposed to do? You need that person that's going to be that positive.
It was so crazy.
Yeah.
And let's take downtown Kankakee, the center of town, Court Street and Schuyler.
Mhm.
Eric, where I grew up, any direction, 3 to 4 blocks, east, west, north, or south, everything was Black owned.
Wow. I
The
didn't know that.
YMCA,
Yeah.
the barbershop, the cab company, any in Columbus, Georgia, 5th and 8th, everything, the restaurants. So the ice cream shop, so you knew there was that separation, but guess what? You wasn't thinking.
Right.
So if I went to Hamilton Park, which is now Callaway Garden, I could look across the fence from Hamilton Park over into Callaway Garden.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And guess what? We got the swimming pool. We got the big swimming pool. We got the little one. And then you look across, and basically they have the same. The only thing is, it's just black and white.
Right.
Okay. And so in our mindsets, I'm probably getting just more education than the white kid that was across the fence, or the same kid that's calling me the N-word on my way to school.
Right.
Because back then, that was corporate punishment.
Yeah.
And let's get into church and state here for a minute.
Yep.
Guess what else was in school? The Bible.
Right.
Religion was in the school.
Yeah.
Okay, so you pledge allegiance to the flag, but there was also religion there.
Right.
Okay, and the teacher, I'm just naming Miss Nesbitt. Man, I still remember these people, 3rd, 4th grade.
Yeah.
Okay, and all they had to do is say, "I'm gonna call your dad." Better yet, you're gonna get the paddle.
Right.
Okay, and the parents is not gonna run up to the school in your defense.
Nope.
All right, unlike now society, corporate punishment is out.
Right.
Let's get politics. We got Senate Bill 100, which means you can't suspend, expel a kid. So of all the laws that's being passed, are they good?
Right.
Are they meeting the need? Let's take the Safety Act. I mean, I might be getting all over the place here, but
No.
look
the point
what
of this.
the Safety Act about law enforcement. It's about police reform.
Mm-hmm.
But is every bit of the bill good for society?
Right.
Jim Rowe, our state's attorney, and others said no.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we're looking at it, and the NAACP also across the state is saying we need to revisit the Safety Act, which is Senate Bill 3653.
Right. Right.
Okay. So we're talking about cash bail, all of these things. So again, does it make our cities, our counties, the state safe?
Yeah.
Okay. Education. They said, it's a lack of teachers. I mean, it's being a branch president today, tonight, tomorrow, and being the vice president of the Illinois State Conference of Branches, that's 42 branches. So I'm the vice president. So I oversee the other branches with our president, President Teresa Haley.
Mm.
So guess what? Our plate is full.
Right.
We just had a lawsuit. Ben Crump just came to Springfield. We had a big news conference down there. A young man died because EMTs come in. They put him face down on the gurney.
Yep.
Guy, he died.
Right.
Strangulation.
Right.
And so let's look at Memphis.
Right.
I got a phone call at the office the other day regarding, so what are we going to do about March and what happened in Memphis? Well, guess what? What happened in Memphis is a total separate situation, I see, than here in Kankakee, because guess what? We've been meeting since Ferguson, Missouri, to ensure what's happening in Ferguson, Cleveland, New York, Memphis doesn't happen here. And you're a part of that solution, the Kankakee County Response Team. So we have, sometimes, and I'm just using this as a youth football coach. The people north of I-80 and even around I-80, when you say Kankakee, they automatically think we some country bumpkins.
Yep. Yeah.
So I just tell my football team, let's just go kick some butt.
Yep.
And we come on back home. If they come down here, and send them back home, because they think in cornfields.
Yeah.
It's almost a whole different world south of 80.
Yes.
No different than most people in the state of Illinois. There's Chicago
And everybody else.
everybody else.
Yep.
Okay. And so here, in our next meeting, law enforcement meeting, which is around March 14th to 21st, we have other branches from across the state to come here to try to emulate to see what we are doing.
Wow.
Okay. So we got people want to know, okay, so how do you get 40 to 50 people to formulate the Kankakee Community Crisis Response Team?
Mm-hmm.
The training that we our members are given.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? That's unlike anything that's happened around us or in the state. Now, really, I sort of got the idea from the riot and the situation in Baltimore, Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
when they had a series and a number of pastors and other community leaders that, formed a line to keep the rioters from, law enforcement and some other thing. I'm saying, oh man. So they was that's where the idea sort of somewhat surfaced of a response team. But Ferguson, Missouri, we're saying, okay, what happened in our county that could dispel one or enhance any civil unrest?
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a group of people to respond to it.
Right.
All right. So the thought was an outgrowth of Ferguson and with the Bears camp. Look, can you imagine the thousands of people when the Bears was here for their summer camp? The diverse population and something jump off, it's going to be totally national news.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what if? And so now we'll put ourselves, and you remember,
Mm-hmm.
what if it happened? We can address it, and we can respond. I have a meeting at noon today. Donna and myself, we're meeting with some of our sheriff personnel to continue to enhance, think things through. Do we need a mobile where we actually stage ourselves to address any civil unrest?
Right.
That's going to be a discussion at noon today. So it's review. So going back to Brad, my mental health. Hey, so you just have to be calm.
Yeah.
And sometimes the body tells you that you need the rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely agreed. And with that, and I would like to know what you think attributes, without getting too much into the KCCCRT, because we'll talk about that in a little bit, but the success of being able to get a group of people from such diverse backgrounds together to be a part of something. Because when I attended these meetings, like I said, I saw every creed, race of people there. Men of the cloth, police officers, and everybody's on the same page. So you're saying that other branches of the NAACP are coming here to kind of see what you were able to do here. Do you attribute that to the just overall ability of the Kankakee community residents saying, we're all on the same page here. We understand that each one of these situations that we see that causes civil unrest can be extremely different, and we need to look at them all case by case and be together? Like, where do you think the success from that comes from?
Real quick, Eric.
Yeah.
I went to Lane College in Jackson, Tennessee, and one of our mottos was to be, not to seem, meaning that what you don't have to advertise the things that you do because you know within yourself what is happening. But arriving in Kankakee in 1973, I was a member of the Kiwanis.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, different organizations, the JCs.
Yep.
So the outgrowth, particularly the JCs, was the Kiwanis is more like white collar, but the JCs is more blue collar members, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had the opportunity to establish relationships. And that is the thing that I would think most of our branch presidents and other members throughout the state, do they have a relationship with the county school superintendent?
Yeah.
Can they pick up the phone and call their local school superintendents, okay? Yeah. Do they know their sheriff? Do they have a relationship with their respective police chiefs?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We have that.
Right.
We have that. So can you think Sheriff Downey and I going to always agree? Hell no.
Right.
But guess what? The relationship is there where we can mediate a disagreement.
Yes.
Okay, and we get phone calls all the time. However, but let me tell you real quick, on the other side of that, there's individuals that maybe totally disagree with Brad's methods. Brad say, I like to do things in closed doors and settle the problem. Well, Theodis is saying, well, man, I don't like what Brad technique is.
Yeah.
I want everything out front. I want rioting. I want marching. Okay. But I can just pick up the phone and call the mayor of a city. So I need to meet with one or two of you and your trustees, or in the city of Kankakee, your council members, the police chief, and we can sit down there and try to mediate. And I'm saying, I just had a phone call, it was on Tuesday, about a 40-minute conversation about the marching and here in Kankakee particularly regarding George Floyd. Okay, so we marched. The NAACP, we had thousands of people. We held a drive-in. I don't know if you recall. We had a drive-in march at the fairground. Thousands of people, okay? Jim Rowe, some of our members, the sheriff, other millennium spoke regarding their thoughts of George Floyd and what was happening across this nation.
Right.
All right, but what did some of the other people that's not tied to the way we do things and the way they did, because they marched every weekend? And so once all this was over, my question is, Brad, your technique, what did you accomplish?
Right. Yeah.
What did you accomplish? However, we had all of the powers that be where we can sit down and say, well, a George Floyd is not going to happen here.
Right.
Are your officers being trained? And I mean, one of the most powerful things I had was just a couple of weeks ago. Matter of fact, January 18th, I attended a meeting of the Eastern Illinois Police Chiefs Association. And so guess what, Eric? That's what we're doing. You as a member of the response team, you basically are being trained and looked at how, from a vision of how law enforcement, particular officers, immediately, what we figure out, 3 to 5 seconds?
Yeah.
They have to make almost a decision on things. So guess what? By doing that, we have an idea of what officers are facing. Then, not only that, our members, which came out of our last month's meeting, we're going to Mantino. We're going to go to Grant Park. You're going to go to St. Anne, Kankakee, Bradley, Bourbonnais, and our members is going to be at each shift where they can meet each officer and get a face, okay? Is that not building and our 10 shared principles? The state of Illinois, the NAACP, have a resolution of a 10 shared principles with each municipality in this county, where Brad is a police officer. He works 6 to 2. That's his shift. So when he gets up and leave at 5 a.m. in the morning, guess what? His wife wants him to return home, right?
Right.
At 2:30.
Right.
All right. So we have to look at things from a broad perspective in today's society. How are we going to improve police reform? And I don't think and those is black officers in Memphis.
Right.
So what jumped off there?
Right.
So here in Mayberry, if we want to call it that, a little small rural area, south of I-80. But guess what? We could be Mayberry, and it didn't carry a gun.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
But he solved a lot of crime.
Yep.
All right? And so here we got the mechanism to be Andy to ensure things doesn't happen here, because guess what? What did Andy have? He had a relationship with everybody in Mayberry.
Yes. That's true.
And guess what? His thorn was Barney.
Barney, yeah.
So,
Barney Fife.
Okay, so guess what? We're putting things in place to prevent a Barney, and be Andy.
Yeah.
That's a big, a hell of an analogy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Right.
But look, I mean, think about it. You have attended the meetings.
Yep.
10 shared principles. So I can pick up the phone and call Chief Barber and Bradley.
Yeah.
And say, and then they'll call us at Theodis. You need to come and watch this video of a traffic stop. All right. And we might have 3 or 4 other members to go. We don't go at the same time. We go different times.
Yeah. Because
everybody gonna have a totally different opinion.
Yeah.
What did you see?
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think the officer followed his training to the T. Okay? So I mean, it's a lot. Being a president, and be mindful, you still have your naysayers.
Oh yeah.
Okay? Is the NAACP still relevant? What does it mean? Well, again, I don't like Pace's approach to things. But guess what? I can kick just as much ass being aggressive
Damn right.
if I want to. But guess what? I don't have to come at you because you and I can just sit down and try to work it out. And guess what? Most of the time, whether it's a law enforcement, and let's think about it. We got 21 committees.
Yep.
It's whether a school superintendent is having issues in his school district, the police, is Riverside, Amita providing health, or they really dealing with health disparities? So it's just not police reform.
Right.
I mean, we got, matter of fact, I'm looking at you now, I forgot. We got a veterans committee.
Yep.
Okay. And Veterans Affairs, basically. But guess who? We got a relationship with Karen.
Yep.
Okay, so this whole thing, when you really look at it through the crystal ball, we're there or we're not.
Right.
All right. But can we get there? And I say we can, but the only way we can get there is because you have to know me.
Yep.
I have to know Brad.
Yep.
I have to know Jake. Then you have to know some about me. And that's why this month is what? Black History Month.
Right.
And most people have forgotten, or February is really a hell of a month to educate people on the accomplishments of Black folks.
Absolutely.
Of the accomplishments they have made that has really meant something. The traffic stoplight. Okay, all of the things that Black individuals that have done. Me, I'm not that great of a guy doing Black History Month to deal with them. I'm not saying Michael Jackson wasn't it, but I'm more into the guy that Charles Drew, who invented the blood plasma and things of that nature.
Oh yeah.
Though but the young people are going to think about King James and all of that.
Yeah.
But we need to be in education about the accomplishments, the true accomplishments.
Oh, absolutely.
That Blacks have made, and so do we do that? And do most races really teach their young people? So Black history started with the idea of teaching our youth to enhance them, of making them feel whole.
Right.
Yeah. Because again, it was a while before I really got the gist of Black history, because the colored and the white water fountain.
Yep.
I can open up the school book, and there's some other kid's name in it, and it's 3 or 4 years old when it got to my school.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that those Black teachers, the administrators, it didn't matter about how old the book was.
Right.
It was the dissemination of the information.
One quick thing I wanted to mention off of what you said that I find one of the most endearing things is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like at the crux of a lot of the issues that you're working on is having open communication, not closed communication, not having two people that refuse to talk to each other, regardless of the different backgrounds, but saying that no matter what, and even if we're going to disagree, there's a respectful, professional, tactful way that we can still talk, where we can leave this conversation with a better understanding of the world that we both share, because common sense is based on common experience, and your experience is different than mine. And so we can still feel our separate ways because of those experiences, but we're never going to figure anything out if we don't talk about it. And that's why I appreciate you and what you do, because it's such, again, you're looking at each case by what exactly happened in this event, not as a whole, every time this happens, if this, then this. Like, it's very much, again, I really appreciated that. But no, Brad, what was the question that you had? Because this also pertains to what Theodis was mentioning earlier, the next one that you had.
About, so a lot of, like the self-fulfilling prophecy of like the youth and stuff. And so how does racism play a role in that, where a lot of people think, people of color, like, oh, you're just going to end up in prison. So they just fulfill that, like, oh yeah, might as well just roll with it because that's what people think anyway. How does that impact their mental health as a whole? And also a follow-up question that you were talking about having, when you were like black schools and white schools, do you feel like was a tighter knit community?
Brad, let me tell you this. That's part two we can have, okay? A serious part two.
Gotcha.
From my perspective, integration hurt black folks.
Really?
As a whole. Let me tell you why. Again, I mentioned everything from my education to my spiritual sense, sports, everything was black. Okay? Cab company, the YMCA, the barbershop, everything where I grew up. So integration come, right? So I've been riding Peterson's cab company, and they've been around for 50 years. And now here we got integration, and the yellow cab come. So now I can ride with a white guy where I've been for 50 years. The Peterson cab company got me from point A to point B. And so when you really look at it, is it good? But as a whole, from my perspective, I think overall it was bad. And even the modern day things, let's look and see what Deion Sanders is doing. Jackson State.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to go play for the University of Florida. You can come to HBCU, which I graduated from an HBCU. And guess what? I got a BA. I got my master's. I went to school to get my doctorate. I went to a little Methodist school in Tennessee. So do you really have to go to University of Illinois? So you understand? Right. So back to your really a question. Personally, today, I think mental health for our young people is something that's happening to them, but I don't think it has anything per se to deal with the racism perspective. Right. You understand? Because guess what? I experienced this with my granddaughter, who is 9 years old. We was up in Lake County. What's the amusement park?
Oh, yeah.
Great America.
Yeah.
Yep.
She and another young white girl, totally engaged. They don't see race.
Yeah.
If you go to the doctor's office, the dentist, kids is going to play.
Yep.
It's going to happen when Theodis tells granddaughter, you don't play with that girl. Or you tell your son, don't play with her. When adults get involved, kids don't necessarily see race.
Right.
They only going to hear the race, the N-word from you. And if I say something, well, most blacks ain't basically teaching their kids to be racist. Right. But the mental health piece, is a kid living in a household that transcend that individual to have some form of mental health? Possibly. But anything I would think, and it's just me, one person, it's the lack of resources, the lack of knowledge. And guess what?
Yeah.
I have mental health in my family. Yeah. Okay? As I speak right here, only less than a mile or so away from here.
Oh, yeah.
And we cannot get her any help because she don't think she needs help.
Right.
Oh, let me repeat it. This less than a mile from here, I have a family member who is mentally ill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I've gone there, I've had the police to go, she refused, and because they just can't snatch her.
Right.
I mean, she have issue, and I have tried to use my influence where she could have gotten assistance, but now guess what? There's a thing. The last 3-5+ years, HIPAA.
Yep.
So
Yep.
she refused. So they can't force it. She needs help. So the only thing I have to do is, try to assist her in a manner, go over, do you need some groceries, things of that nature.
Right.
And she can drive, but guess what? If the three of us ride by her house now, the light is on, her outdoors light is on, and the woman does not come outside. She thinking someone around the corner is watching her, or someone across the street, okay? But now that, her situation have affected another family member who would be her son and her daughter.
Yeah.
And I attempted to try to pull them out of that environment, okay? And it didn't impact my niece, but it truly impacted my nephew.
Right.
Because of his mother's mental health. Boom. And I'm really trying to deal with him, and it impacted him. And guess what? And you must have knew that question I had an answer for, because he's incarcerated.
And so, like you said, it's just there's a lot of different factors that come into play when it comes to influencing the mental health.
In the black,
a young community.
Uncle Eric, Uncle Brad, hey, we know they're crazy, but everybody know he got. I'm not say crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody know.
But that's what people used to say.
Everybody know the unks got problems.
Right.
Yeah.
But so that was just now. Can we provide the resources? Right. But what if the person don't want the resources? And so once we got the resources, we also saying, well, we don't have enough funding.
Yep.
To really truly meet the need. So that's why we have to continue to, just keep going, kicking that can on down the road. We got to keep fighting. Just keep fighting. And the other thing that really bothers me, and it's mostly local, but nationally, statewide, how can we deal with our lawmakers? And we just talking politics for 30 seconds. The NAACP, we are the only agency or organization that hosts candidates forums.
Yeah.
I just looked at throughout the whole county, part 2, again with you, Brad, and Jake. If you look at all of the offices that are coming up, that's going to be on the ballot on Tuesday, April 4th, there's elections where people need to vote for 3 individuals. There's only 1 or 2, meaning that there's something going on why people don't want to run for public office.
Yep.
Kankakee, there's 7 wards. There's 3 or 4, there's no opposition. County, so what is happening? So let's just use the theme of mental health. If we don't have the right lawmakers, we're not going to get those resources.
Right.
Because our lawmakers is being not what we actually, if no opposition, anybody could just say, I'll run and nobody. So what is the theme? What do we do? Because of lack of people want to be in the political arena.
Well, and one thing I wanted to touch on before you got out of here briefly, to talk about what you had just mentioned as far as kicking the can down the road and continuing to make this forward progress. Can you, and we've already talked about this a little bit, but can you please explain, because like I said, I know you got to get out of here, but what the KCCCRT is and why it's important?
Well, it is real important, and I'm going to tell you why it's important. If that Ferguson happened here, we'll be ready.
Right.
Our purpose is to respond to any civil unrest and to events affecting individuals, groups, or community in Kankakee. We want to reduce crime. We want to strengthen the relationship between law enforcement and the community, build and improve policy procedures, which we're doing. We are meeting with our law enforcement to make sure that all the respective officers are trained. Our members are being trained, and from a lens of how law enforcement actually approach a situation. Our goals, we wanted to diffuse tension within the community during the time of crisis. We want to listen and promote understanding, foster resolution based on responses to community crisis. Our response team is involved and can include publicizing arrests. We want to shoot or use forces that provoke tension, violence, crime, and also sudden death or suicide. So we cover quite a bit of meeting the need of the community. Mm-hmm. And I would say our mission is to work and to understand the reality of an event, diffuse post-incident tension through diversity, transparency, and with effective communication and community awareness. And I think we are touching from A to Z mm-hmm. to ensure that and that's Donna Sample's wording, if it happens, I think we'll be ready, Brad and Eric.
And I was extremely honored, like I said, and happy to be a part of that response team. Now, there are people out there that want to learn how they can be involved. Where do they go and what do they do?
Well, one, they can call, they can email NAACP3035 at AOL.com, mm-hmm. or they can call the NAACP office at 815-932-0858. Again, NAACP3035 at AOL.com, or call 815-932-0858.
Theodis, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. Is there anything else you wanted to say before you sign out here to your next meeting?
Hey, man, actually, it's quite important because I made a commitment to the next engagement. Yep. But we definitely need a part 2, maybe a part 3, because I think we can talk about EDI. We can talk about, again, equity, diversity, inclusion, again, a little more importantly, police reform, why the NAACP is relevant, how can we engage our youth into community activities? You know, I hear so much about there's not enough activities for our youth. Man, there's all kind of activity. But
Absolutely.
Guess what? We can talk about parenting. Yeah. I mean, I can go A to Z for you. And believe it or not, the NAACP and myself, I have this cap with about 8 bibs on it. And I just flip it throughout the day, to try to address the need. Yeah. But, I always use this as my theme, I guess. What a man does for himself, okay? And what a man does for his community, live long after he's gone. You got me?
Oh, yeah.
And so I want to be known as that person that as what you can do, and if you're doing it right, it's going to be a staple in the community, and it's still going to be there while I'm gone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the piece.
Well, then we look forward to part 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, 6. We'll see. And also, one of the things that we talked about before we started recording was the potential.
And I got that from Theodore Roosevelt. What a man does for himself, stays with him. But what a man does for his community to live long after he's gone. So,
Rough Riders.
Yes, sir. He's a Rough Rider.
No, we look forward to talking with you again. We also look forward to hearing you on an upcoming episode of the Kankakee
I got to get with Jake, man. Me and Jake.
You got to get with Jake, man.
Hey.
He's the guy.
Hey, we you know what? I'm going to get comical for a minute. You guys probably don't remember this. It's a movie about the guy that comes on at midnight. What was his name? The Love guy. Yeah. And everybody called him at midnight. Yeah. So Brad, he had all of the answers for the people who was in love.
Yeah.
So we can be the love doctor at midnight.
We could for sure do that. Yeah. I don't think my wife would agree.
No.
But we could do it.
But we got to.
Neither would my wife.
But see, we have to change our names.
Yeah.
But guess what? But we'll have the answers for everybody. And so part 2, 3, 4, we can have answers to improve the quality of life and want people to move here to Kankakee County. We can talk about our housing. I mean, I can go on housing, our housing stock, how we're going to improve people to move to this community, all of that. We can talk all day, man.
Well, I look forward to it. Thank you again, Theodis.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yep.
Sure.
I definitely could have kept talking to Theodis.
Oh, absolutely.
I wanted to. And we had other questions that we wanted to ask him, but he's a very busy man.
Yes.
And we wanted to get him out of here on time.
Yes.
So again, make sure that you tune in when he's going to be on an upcoming episode of the Kankakee podcast. So please hop over there, check it out. He's got so much information. I'd love to talk to him again and kind of dive into some of this stuff. How did you feel? You feel better?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Part 2, part 3, like we talked about, we got to have a couple parts, I think.
Do the love doctor thing.
Yes.
I don't know how much I would have to add, but I just know that my wife hates it that I'm just right so gosh darn much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I wish I could say that, but my wife knows that I'm not right.
Yeah.
She's just like, dude, you're dumb. I'm like, all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very humbling. People ask, sometimes, how do you stay humble, Eric? And I say, well, I'm married.
Yep.
And that's a real big help. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you want to get knocked down a couple pegs?
Yep.
Get married.
So it was really cool to have Theodis on here to talk about this again. It's Black History Month, so we wanted to tap into that a little bit, to talk about, again, the impact and relationship between racism and mental health. And really, as we were talking to Theodis, I was like, man, this is a lot deeper than like just a one conversation thing for sure, in the different routes that he started going off on. So I really hope that we can have another conversation about this soon. But before we wrap up, we also have another new segment, being that we are now releasing episodes on Monday. I wanted to have a little bit of a motivational Monday quote segment for our show and talk about some of the quotes that I and you have found that we just really enjoy, because there are so many great quotes out there from so many people that have done so many things, and I really think it warrants having a discussion on for some of them.
Yeah, for sure.
And I brought this up to you kind of ad hoc out of nowhere, and you're like, yeah, dude, I got one. Babe Ruth, baby. What one are you thinking? Okay,
well, if anyone has ever seen the movie Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff and Chad Michael Murray, it's not from that. I knew it before this movie came out.
I thought you were going to say Sandlot.
No. I wish. That's such a...
No,
shoot, I should have. Anyway.
Cinderella Story. Let's get it.
So the part where...
Cinderella Story.
Right? The part where there's the earthquake and the guitar falls and there's the Babe Ruth quote. It's never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that also, like, in school growing up.
Yeah.
I know that was Babe Ruth, though.
That was Babe Ruth. And then there's the Michael Jordan one. You're going to miss 100% of shots that you don't take.
Is that Jordan or Gretzky?
Is it Gretzky?
I thought it was Gretzky.
Oh, it's one of either way.
It's a great quote.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, like the cheesy, like cliche sports quotes I kind of go to. Not really cheesy,
they
but...
sound cheesy because you hear them so many times, but you have to wonder where they came from.
Wayne Gretzky. Thank you.
Was it Gretzky?
Yeah.
Love you, Jake. That's why I'm glad you're here, buddy. I thought it was Wayne Gretzky because I did a report when I was a little kid on Bobby Hull, and Bobby Hull was an amazing hockey player who was, I believe, one of Wayne Gretzky's.
He actually recently passed, I believe.
Mentors. For real?
I think so.
I did not know that.
Just recently, yeah.
Well, and that's where I heard Wayne Gretzky's quote, like attributed the quote to him from some research that I did for that paper. But no, one of my favorite quotes, it's got a little bit of a story to it, but one of my favorite quotes is burn the ships. So burn the ships. I actually have a flag in my basement, and maybe if it ever gets finished, I can show everybody my flag.
You've been talking about your
first episode
since June of last year.
Can that just be a bit?
Yeah, I think so.
On our show, or just every episode. Like next episode will be in my basement for the studio, and like we never get there. We're just always going to be at Lemoore Media, which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
I'm also fine with. It's a very frustrating part of my life. Okay, so anyway, the flag that's in my basement, which does exist. It says burn the ships, and I bought it because of this story. So in 1519, there was a Spanish conquest of Mexico, and it was led by Commander Hernan Cortez. Now, Hernan Cortez did some terrible stuff, okay? And I'm not condoning any of the terrible things that he'd done. I'm just talking about this quote in particular. And what was so important about the Spanish conquest and why it was there was Hernan Cortez wanted to take, it was a Mayan treasure. Now, there was this Mayan treasure that had not been taken in over 700 years, right? Plenty of people tried. Plenty of people set out on these expeditions to go out there and take the treasure that's never been taken, and everybody failed. And so Cortez said that he was going to do it. He took like 11 ships. He had, tons of soldiers. He had horses, all that other kind of stuff. And they finally land in Mexico. And when they landed in Mexico, they all gather around, I'm sure, to hear what they were hoping was going to be Hernan Cortez's Denzel Washington type of speech. A rousing speech to get everybody going and just super motivated, like a Braveheart type of speech, right? And all Cortez said to them was, burn the ships. And I have to imagine that, like, all the soldiers were kind of looking around like, what the hell did he just say? Like, what, dude? Like, what was that? And when they asked him why, Cortez said, because once we take the treasure, we're going to take their ships home. And wouldn't you know it, they took the treasure. Like, they took a treasure that hadn't been taken in 700 years because they realized that they didn't have a plan B. Yeah. They couldn't retreat back to the boats because there were none. They had to fight with every inch, with every single fiber of their being to take this treasure if they wanted to survive. And so I thought it was such a good quote for what it's supposed to mean, to me at least, which is you have to understand that sometimes that plan B is holding you back. It's not propelling you forward. So you cut that plan B out, you burn those ships, and lo and behold, you can take that treasure, you can do that thing that nobody else could do because you're not giving yourself a fallback plan. You're telling yourself, no, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to do it. And this is how I'm going to do it. So burn the ships.
Burn the ships.
So thank you again for listening to this episode of the I'm Fine podcast. I hope you found something from it. I hope you can burn your ships. I hope you can be ready for the next episode, which will for sure be in my basement.
Yeah.
You got anything else to say, Brad?
No, man. I thought it was a good episode.
It's a great episode, man.
Absolutely, as always.
So we hope you have a great week. We hope you tune in for our next episode, and we will talk to you very soon.